Today is the first time that we've focused on the charitable, the philanthropic perspective, if you will, of the charitable pay raise. And it's a particular pleasure to have Amy Horner here to present thoughts and concepts from her background and perspective in helping consult with charities, as well as her own background in working for a nonprofit previously, and all the work she's done across the accounting world and strategy. So today's presentation is going to be a little bit different. We're going to focus on those aspects much more than on the guts, if you will, of the mechanical way the charitable pay raise works. I like to go through that, obviously, for attorneys and to a degree for financial advisors. But I think what's really important is that the charitable partner in this plays a huge role. And you're going to see that and benefits, hopefully, tremendously from the strategy. So with no further ado, let's get started. There, that's me. That's all you needed to know. Now, I must admit, give me a thumbs up. You all can hear me, right? Thumbs up, good. I loved it when I was touching base with Amy and asking her what we should put down as the name of her current occupation, having just left a firm called Vault. And I got Horner's Corner. I thought, well, that's great. That's awesome. And Amy's got a tremendous background. I'll let her give you a little bit more of it, but Big Four alum means Big Four accounting firms, and she has exercised her expertise in a lot of different roles to the benefit of the organizations that she's been with. And in her past also, I believe you were with the National Soccer Foundation, or what's the correct title, Amy?
The U.S. Soccer Foundation.
U.S. Soccer Foundation,
yes.
Which I think is way cool. And an athlete. And Amy, I was reading, you've done 38 states.
Yes, I've run a road race in 38 of the 50 states.
That's awesome.
It's been a lot of fun.
The competitive spirit is still there. So we'll come back to that. And here we go.
Soon. Congratulations. Have you thought about what you're going to do with your company stock when you retire? And how much in taxes you'll be paying on it? What if I told you it's possible to get a substantial increase in your retirement after-tax cash flow while supporting your favorite charities? You wouldn't believe me? It's true.
Take a look at CharitablePayraise.com to see how you can maximize the value of your 401k and support your favorite charities. You can do well while doing good.
So our goals for today. We're going to give you a high-level overview of the strategy itself, the method. We're only going to do one case study just so you can get a feel for what it does. And then we're really going to focus on the charitable giving landscape and Q&A today. And I'm really looking forward to it. Here we go. So what are the problems? There needs to be a purpose for the app and the patent and the tax opinion, the should tax opinion, all the things we've done. What have we been going after? Well, baby boomers face the following. By the year 2030, there'll be 78 million of us. And we're looking at an era of increased longevity. God knows we had inflation prior to the last 2 years, but certainly it's been the primary issue, I think, for many people. We've got a rising federal deficit, which usually leads to higher taxes. And then, you can hear many times a month, different tidbits about Social Security and Medicare solvency. So the bottom line here is that the average person needs to make their dollars last longer and do more for them. What about the charitable side? Well, just last week, Philanthropy Today wrote, donors have contributed actually 13% less in 2022 than in 2021. And they said nonprofits are facing an even more challenging year in 2023. And it kind of makes sense. There's more squeeze on the average budget. with inflation and various taxes going up. And I think people are also concerned and therefore less likely to feel comfortable giving as much as they did. We'd like to think that what we're doing with the charitable pay raise is introducing a new method that can be a win-win for both your organizations and charity as well as themselves. A couple of notes. Recent surveys showed that wealth planning firms that offer charitable planning had 6 times the median assets of those that don't. And that came from Fidelity Charitable, and they're pretty much the 800-pound gorilla. Recent surveys showed that amongst millionaires who receive charitable planning, they tend to rate their advisors 27% higher as multi-generational resource. And that's a huge thing for baby boomers, because the transition of assets from our parents to the baby boomers and then from baby boomers to our children is a huge issue. And the taxes that will be imposed on those families, particularly if after, as we're scheduled right now on 1/1/2026, the unified credit reduces back to about $6 million, as opposed to 12.6 or 7 where we are right now per person. That means there'll be a lot more estate taxes than what we're currently paying, and we need guidance in all that. So where does the charitable pay raise play and fit into the scope of concepts in the nonprofit and in the charitable world? You're probably familiar with private foundations supporting organizations. This is money basically in perpetuity. And it's not designed to be doing too much for the families as much as it is to be supporting the works of various charities. Donor advised funds are a great source of being able to divide assets and move them into different charities and sprinkle them much like a private foundation. But these are not in perpetuity. These have a finite timetable, as does a charitable lead trust, which helps a charity for a given amount of time before the asset reverts back to the family. And then you've got the charitable structures that are designed to help the donor from an income standpoint, Kratz and Krutz and gift annuities, and they do a good job. But the income from them is usually partially taxable or can even become completely taxable to the donor at certain points. And in addition, they tend to be depleting assets. So the longer that the donor lives, there tends to be less corpus at the finish line for the benefit of the charity. The ROCKS method, which is the charitable pay raise, kind of combines the best of two worlds. Similar to private foundations and supporting organizations, the corpus of the money inside the ROCKS method accrues and grows over time to the ultimate benefit of the charity. In addition, the charity will receive what amounts to being a permanent and irrevocable planned gift during the lifetime of the client. So you're getting, as a charity, revenue on the client's alive, and then a major bequest, something that's actually been growing over the years upon the demise of the donor client. And as far as income to the client goes, the personal economics are far superior in the ROCKS method because all of the income that the client receives, the donor, is tax-free. So we're better on both sides of the fence. Very briefly, this is how it works, and we're not going to spend a lot of time here today, but you have an appreciated asset, a huge 401k plan, or even stock that's found inside a retirement plan. And you move that into an LLC that you completely own. You then update the LLC so that it now has managerial units for 1% and 99% are common non-voting. And that's what the charity nonprofit is going to receive, the non-voting 99% units. But as I mentioned previously, in the operating agreement, the charity is going to be receiving revenue for life of the client. And the client's going to be getting a tax deduction as is true whenever you give something away to charity. So there are the distributions to charity every year. And then after 2 years and a day, eventually the client, who is the manager of their own, of this two-party LLC, the partners being themselves and their charity, will start receiving tax-free cash flow from it. In the meantime, just for what it's worth, because we've generated a large tax deduction, we often can help the client convert part of their pre-tax assets to Roth, which is a side benefit. They don't have to use the deduction for that. But if you do, you end up in a situation where your Roth IRA is giving you tax-free income. The ROX method LLC is giving you tax-free cash flow. And that's probably putting you in a lower tax bracket so that we'll give you a quick example. Mary is a local and was a local employee here in the Northern Virginia area in the tech sector. 30 years there, did a pretty good job saving in her 401k, had about $2 million in there. So we were trying to help her maximize the value of those dollars, minimize taxes, and give back to her favorite charity, the Purple Heart Foundation. You say, why the Purple Heart Foundation? Because their board of directors approved us about 2 weeks ago. So that's what we're using for our example today. But it just shares with you that there are nonprofits out there who have done due diligence on us and have decided to move forward, which we think we're very thankful for. But we see it as a great opportunity to help charities start to build more in their mid-level donor fundraising. So these were Mary's assumptions: 7% return on the investments, 8% withdrawals. The traditional IRA method is if she does nothing. And by the way, NUA on the prior slide, net unrealized appreciation stock, is talking about the stock in her employer, which was inside her retirement plan. And in this particular case that you're looking at, we helped her extract that and put it through the ROX method versus the traditional way, which is just cash in your company stock inside your 401k, roll it all over in cash to an IRA, and then either manage it yourself or hopefully get a manager. So that's what we're comparing in this analysis. And here you go. If we go the traditional route, she'd get $134,532 after tax. If we do it using the ROX method, she gets about a $20,000 a year improvement. Over 25 years, it's about a $400,000 improvement over her lifetime. And this is probably one of the most modest examples we've ever used or seen. But here's what's important at the finish line, the bottom. Over the course of Mary's lifetime, she will have contributed through her LLC almost $138,000 to, in this case, the Purple Heart Foundation over her lifetime. I'm trying to move something here. But more importantly, she's going to be leaving almost a $1.5 million final bequest to charity. And that is a legacy defining gift. And it's a whole different conversation about supporting those things that you really benefited from or that you felt very strongly about over the course of your lifetime. And that's what we're here to support. And wouldn't you know it, this is always, let's see if I can work my way out of it. I did. So with no further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce Amy again. And if I can figure this out, make Amy the co-presenter. And I'm going to let her share her thoughts. This is always where it gets interesting.
I don't know that I need to co-present, if that makes it technically easy for you.
Well, I think we're going to let you go right from where you are because
We're good?
we're good. We're going to go
Okay.
with it as it is. Yep.
Fantastic. Well, happy to be here today. And John and Steve, it's very nice to meet you both. I do want to learn a little bit more about you in a second here. So be prepared with your 30 to 60 second bio, just so that I know what y'all's backgrounds are as I'm talking. But my name is Amy Horner, and I've spent the nucleus really of my career as both a fiduciary and a strategist in the nonprofit and association sector. Really enjoy watching the impact that those organizations can make. And that is how I came to meet Bill, and appreciate so much the incredibly complicated concept that he has come up with in the spirit of helping not only people who are moving towards retirement, which is tricky and stressful and a lot of unpleasantness, by making that better and also giving to charities at the same time. So happy to be here today. And John, just to start with you, if you could let me know what your comfort level is with everything that we're talking about and where you are. You're not in the East Coast, I'm assuming, with that background.
I'm actually in South Florida.
Okay.
So I do that just to tick people off. So, that, but yeah, my name is John Fraser. I work for a nonprofit called Legacy Tree Foundation based outside Nashville. We work in the similar space. Bill and I actually, it turns out, went to the same high school 2 years apart in Northern Virginia, as we talked a few days ago. Know a lot of the same people. He's still in the same area in Northern Virginia that my family is still there. So we'll be visiting soon enough. But yeah, I'm on today to get a little more education, maybe with some shared type of scenarios that we might be able to work with Bill on. And so I'm just kind of learning about this concept.
Fantastic.
More so.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
You as well. Thank you.
And Steve, how about you?
Well, I'm just a babe in the industry. I've really only been around life insurance and maybe a little bit of financial planning since 2015, but I was originally real estate and mortgage broker back to 1991. And before that, as a kid, I had my own business. So I've never really liked working for anybody. I like doing things for myself and on my own time frame. But I'm just I'm gathering the information so that I have this as a quiver or an arrow in my quiver, and that will allow me to open up more doors, more opportunity. And the more I see what's going on behind the curtain, so to speak, it's becoming more apparent that this is really something that's a great option for those that I come in contact with that are in this situation, that do want to participate in this type of operation.
Fantastic. Thank you. So we have one person from each side of the fence. So thanks so much, Bill, for really making me flex my muscles here and talk to both audiences.
Plus, I did not go to high school in Virginia, and I'm in California.
Okay. Well, I also did not go to high school in Virginia, so we can be pals.
All right.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing, and it's fantastic to meet you. I'm glad you're both here today and gathering some information, really from the charitable perspective. I guess I have some bullets here that Bill wants me to talk to. The interesting part about having an innovative stream of money, John, as you know, traditionally someone cuts you a check. We hope they're big checks with many digits behind them that will cover a lot of expenses for many years. But typically those checks either come with strings attached or they are one time, and you kind of have the heart attack meter, right, of the ebbs and flows of known revenue. And known revenue is like absolute gold for a nonprofit, because it means that y'all can have stability, not only in your financial situation, but also in the pursuit of your mission in support of your programs. And so that is one of the great benefits of what Bill has described, is this is really an annuity. Everybody, I think, knows what annuity means, right? It's similar money that comes in year after year, that's known and predictable over a certain period of time. And it allows the fiduciary role, typically the CFO and the treasurer, to have some confidence that they know what the cash flow is going to be. So incredibly welcome on the nonprofit side. And for the board as well, right? The board wants to know that they're not going to be at the helm when the nonprofit starts to either struggle from a financial perspective or their ability to execute their mission. One of the things that I like is this is a mid-level donor focused, like the example for the Purple Heart Foundation that Bill just went through with us. Not into deep a level of detail, for which I'm sure we are all incredibly grateful. The more y'all talk to Bill, I do have to warn you, he's going to get into the nitty-gritty tax code of the ROCKS method. Just be prepared for that and be ready to take copious notes, because Bill understands it very well, which is obviously fantastic, but it can be a little tricky. But mid-level donors, they're unpredictable, right? And they're hard, John, as you know, to capture over long periods of time. They can be very fickle. If a natural disaster happens and someone has $1,000 to give this year, they're more than likely going to send their $1,000 to that natural disaster. And the next year, when something else happens, like someone in their family is diagnosed with a specific disease, their $1,000 is going to go to that charity. And so capturing mid-level donors is an incredibly potentially lucrative piece for nonprofits and charities, but a very tricky piece. And so what this allows us to do is kind of capture those donors in an annuity-based program. We all love our large level donors, right? Our gold star donors, they are fabulous. They help us really get programs off the ground. But being able to capture people at the mid-level can truly move the needle if you get a handful of them in the door. And committed, can truly move the needle for the organization in a long-term basis. Planned gifts, like I was just talking about earlier, that annuity-based revenue is just absolutely, that's gold money for the organization. They know it's coming. They can plan around it. They know what it's going to cover. They can earmark those funds. And we'll talk about unrestricted funding in a minute too. Knowing what those funds will be going forward is critical and important. And then, of course, I think mission of the charitable Payraise, right, is part of this last bullet, is helping individuals and families not only enjoy their retirement, but also give back to the charity or charities of their choice. And so taking a little bit of that stress and worry out of retirement and putting it into a more predictable and planned place. Do I have another slide?
You can go and
Okay.
go your own way right now.
Okay. So one of the things that I do like to mention, and Steve, if you've sat on a board, and John, you know this from your role with your nonprofit, is unrestricted funds can be incredibly challenging to come by. Most donors want to give to a specific piece of the mission or to support a very narrow program. However, the organization still needs to run. All of the technology that it takes to run an organization, the people that it takes to run an organization, that needs to be covered. And the bigger you are and the better people you have, the more those things are going to cost as an investment. And so one of the great things about Charitable Payraise is that our donors are able to earmark their money as unrestricted, which means no strings attached, and the management of the nonprofit can select how that money will be spent. So if they do need a new system, new technology, even new laptops or a new CFO, that money can go towards those things. So really critically important to make sure that nonprofits are getting funded for their non-programmatic impact, right? Anything that's not directly touching the mission, but that is necessary for the organization to run and run well.
Awesome. It was interesting that back in October of last year, Philanthropy Today wrote an article talking about mid-level donors and the great desire of a lot of people to want to do more, but a great fear that their dollars won't last.
Mhm.
And we hope that in the charitable pay raise, we've created a win-win that will enable them to feel assured that they're taking care of their family economic picture first and foremost. So it's always like my dad, that God forbid I pass away, I got to make sure, your mom is okay. And that's great. Well, we can help them do that while at the same time creating revenue for the charity today, and then really doing something that's legacy defining upon the demise of the second spouse. And as Amy alluded to previously, better retirement, lasting legacy is kind of our tagline. And we run by that. And there are three classic types of potential donors that you might be on the lookout for, so to speak, within the folks you're working with. Those who are transitioning in life from accruing and appreciating assets, building, and now they're at a phase where they're going to start receiving income revenue from those assets. We can be of tremendous help converting appreciated assets into the charitable pay raise and supporting charity, as well as creating tax-free cash flow for themselves. The second one, as you saw today, I want to speak to, because it's kind of a niche, newest stock, and I won't go into all the details, but it's basically anyone who has employer stock inside their retirement plan. And we know that there are 7 to 9 million baby boomers who will have to make a decision about what to do with that stock between now and 2030. And this provides, in my opinion, probably the preeminent method of dealing with that stock to their benefit and hopefully your benefit. And the third one we fell into backwards, kind of like discovering penicillin, overfunded, and I'll even use the word problematic IRAs. And John and I spoke a little bit about this in our one-off conversation, because not only are they purely taxable at the income tax level when they're coming out, as Steve knows, but what that's going to do to complicate the estate tax picture in 1/1/2026, when suddenly an enormous number of mid-level donors are going to find themselves in the federal estate tax bracket. And it behooves them to take a look at what they can do to help themselves, help you, and try and improve that which would go to their children on an after-tax basis down the road. See if I can do this. Q&A. John, Steve, we've teased you with a few ideas today. How about a question or two before we call it a day? Don't everybody jump. Steve, how about you? John, what do you got?
Couldn't find my microphone. I really don't have any questions at this point.
Okay. Steve, do you work, or any of your clients work with any particular charities out where you're serving?
Absolutely. I've got a couple of ex-PGA professionals that are involved with PGA youth charities, as well as preparing for those senior years after they're done swinging their clubs. Rick is involved in Southwestern US PGA charities.
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go. Excellent. John, how about yourself? Any questions?
Sorry, I had it on mute. As we spoke about earlier, it's you know, we're in a little different position than some other folks are. But I do want to, you know, bring this to the attention of the people I mentioned to you the other day. You know, you know, obviously being a nonprofit, we know a ton of other nonprofits, and you know, some of the higher end type people they may have, this would work well for. I mean, again, my focus in this is what can be done with qualified money, and that's what I want to get a little bit more, you know, knowledge on, so that, you know, we can bring more people to you.
I'm happy to talk to you about that. We're in a future webinar and also
Sure.
one-on-one, but that's a great, you know, a great prospect to be helped are those that have a lot of 401k money. But we also, within the charitable pay raise, have talked about where is that line in the sand where it's worth me talking to somebody about this. And it's kind of a soft line in the sand, but it's what we call our 250 and 50. If you have a $250,000 asset that has appreciated by 50%, it's worth taking a look at. And the rationale I put into when is it worth it has to do with, you know, you're going to have some legal fees, but in the way our program works, we're giving the attorneys templates of all the documents necessary to implement the strategy. They're going to edit it based on the jurisdiction of the client, but they're not creating. So that's a lot less expensive. There's always a gift appraisal that's involved in there, and there's time. So those are really the three factors that go into the decision, is it really worth it or not. So we believe, you know, it could work below 250, but if you're at 250 and above, and that asset's appreciated by 50%, whether it's a piece of land, an interest in a business, Bitcoin, whatever, a collectible, whatever it might be, it's worth the discussion. And we can run a primary, an analysis for you just to give you kind of a quick look to see if the numbers are leaning towards the idea making sense to use or whether it doesn't. And we're happy to do that anytime. This is a quick look at the board with Amy and some of the other folks that are on there. And it's a pretty good crew. And then Christina's with us today, hiding behind my picture over there. But Jen Dalton, who runs our brand, and Kylie Dahl are also members of the team. So one of us is always available to reach out to you in a moment's notice for whatever the particular need might be. Amy, any other final comments before we sign off today?
Not from me, but gentlemen, if either of you have a question for me, John, I'm sure you and I could talk shop for hours on hours. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. I think my contact information is at least on the webinar, and if not, Christina or Bill can get it over to you. And Steve, just to comment about your golf clients, you know, it's fantastic when you can give back in the arena that has meant so much to you as a passion. And so I love hearing that you have people in your orbit that are able to give back through their sport. I think that's fantastic.
Awesome.
So I also, you know, I mean, I live 3 miles from Jupiter, Florida, where 3/4 of the current PGA professionals live and play and work and such. So, you know, they're always around. I just gotta go find them, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm happy to drive around the neighborhood with you on that one.
Well, you have to bring your golf clubs to do that, so that's the important thing here. So.
Very good.
But,
Hey, thank you all for attending today. I appreciate it. Amy, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to co-host today. I appreciate it. And as Amy shared, you know, feel free to contact Amy as well as any of us, Christina or myself. We're happy to jump on another, you know, Zoom call or whatever's necessary if you have a question, or if you ever want us to run the idea by somebody that you're working with. Our job is to support you in those efforts and make it a win-win for everybody. All right, everybody, if I don't talk to you beforehand, have a happy 4th of July.
Yep.
And thank you for spending time with the Charitable Pay Raise.
Thank
Take care.
you guys. Take care.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.